Hello everyone. Am I audible? And just let me know. Can you see my screen? And if I am audible, so using the chat option, just let me know, and then we'll start the deep learning. Okay, great. So I guess I'm audible now. So we are live, right? So hi guys. My name is Mohit, and I'm instructor and product engineer at Coding Blocks. So this session will be going to be on deep learning. So we will see what is deep learning, how it is different from machine learning, difference between deep learning and machine learning, and we will be creating a project, mini project called Amnist Handwritten Digit Classification. So you will be seeing what is image classification and how we can create this mini project using deep learning. So we'll be doing some basics of deep learning, and also we'll be doing some programming of deep learning. So using Keras as a TensorFlow backend. Okay, so before starting deep learning, so just let me know how many of you do not know Python. So obviously, there will be students to those who do not know Python, and we will be doing coding on Python, right? So I guess we will be focusing on like 20 to 30 minutes on Python basics first. So just let me know how many of you are there that who haven't coded any Python coding. So never seen any hello world even in Python. So just let me know how many students are there. Okay, so there are some students, right, who need like some basics of Python, and so no worries. So I guess there are most of students who already know Python. So just bear with me for next 15 to 20 minutes, and then once we finish the basics of Python, and then we'll quickly jump to the deep learning. So we'll not take very long time for Python basics, Python basics, and we'll quickly summarize what is Python, how Python works, and some basics of like syntax, and then we'll see deep learning. So those of you attend this the complete session till 10:15 p.m. So you will be also getting some certificate for participation. So just bear with me for next 2 hours, and you'll be getting certificate as well. So we can start with Python, I guess first. So I'll be writing code on Google Colab. So just search for. So those who do not have any ID like Jupyter Notebook or any ID, just search for. And even I would recommend you to just use Google Colab for this workshop. So just search for Google Colab. Search for Google Colab. Click on the first link. So this is collab.research.google.com, and click on New Notebook. So here's a new notebook. So this is new notebook button. So just click on this. Okay, and once you get this interface, just click on connect button. So here's the connect button. Just click on connect button. And it will allocate a RAM and some disks, so basically space to you. So basically what is this Google Colab is, this is like a Jupyter Notebook or IDE for Python where you can write Python code, but this actually works on Google server. So you are using Google resources for your task, right? So we can do this. So actually the thing is, I have already created Python basics notebook. So I'll be just quickly going over the Python code. Obviously, you can at the same time you can if you want to try Python code, you can, at the same time you can try Python code, uh, which is like basically hands-on workshop. So because we are not focusing a lot for Python basics, and we'll quickly move to deep learning. So that's why I have just created this Python basic notebook already. and we'll just go through this notebook for 15-20 minutes, and then we'll switch to the Python basics. Okay, so the first step is like you have to basically rename your notebook. Otherwise, you will see untitled 13, untitled 14. So this doesn't look nice. So you need to rename your notebook first, and this is how you can write print statement in Python. So you just write print hello world or in string format, anything. And to run this cell, either you click here, so you can see this button, run button. Either you click here, or just do shift enter. Click shift enter, and it will execute it, right? So you can clearly see the output hello world like below this cell. So this is the output. So this is how you write print statement. So let's create a variable. So in Python, we do not specify the data type, like int a is equal to 9, or character any variable name, and then your hello like that. So you just write variable name on the fly, and it will create the variable, right? So this is a is equal to 9. You have created. Use shift enter to execute this cell. Now, if you want to print the value of a, just print a, right? It will print 9, obviously, because we have allocated the 9 to this variable a. Now, there would be data type for this variable, because every variable has some data type, right? So you cannot, although we are not specifying data type while declaring the variable, but this variable should have data type. So if I ask, so type is a function. Type is a function in the Python that given any object inside the type function, it will give the data type of its of the variable. So right now a is an integer type, right? Because 9 is an integer. If you use 9.6, it will become float. In other languages, so if you are coming from C++ or Java, in other languages, once you declare any variable as an integer type or float or boolean or maybe string character, you cannot change its, you cannot convert or change its data type, right? But in Java, in Python, what we can do, earlier it is a is equal to 9, which is integer, right? But I can give a string value. So you can clearly see that this is a string, and I can easily give this string value to a. So if I execute this cell, it will give no error in Python. But in other languages like C++, Java, it will definitely give you error that you cannot, a is an integer type variable and you are giving a value of a string. So you cannot do this in other languages, but it is loosely, like Python is loosely typed. So basically you can easily convert data types from maybe integer to string or boolean or other types. Okay, I am speaking so fast. Okay, so we'll go slow, right? So I have given the value Mohit, so which is a string, to variable a, right? Now if I print the value of a, okay, I'll speak a little bit slow. No worries. If I print the value of a, you can see Mohit, right? Earlier it was 9. So this shows that you have actually converted integer type to string type. Also, if you ask what is the type of a, it will say string, right? So I hope the idea is clear that you can easily convert any variable type from integer to string or number, or maybe like there are different data types in Python. So you can easily convert any variable to any different data type. Now, if you know some control flow, so control flow is basically like if else. If you have heard about, or maybe you must have practiced about if else in maybe first or second semester, right? If else or for loop. So similar to that, we in C++ or Java we have also we in Python we have if else conditions. So let's create a simple variable a is equal to 8. I'm just giving 8 value to a variable, right? Now I can write a if condition. If a is greater than equal to 10, then print a is greater than equal to 10, greater than 10, right? So basically, in other languages like C++, Java, you put parentheses like this, right? You put parentheses, but in Python, instead of parentheses, just put a colon and give some indentation. So if you put colon, it will automatically give indentation. You can see, put a colon, press enter, and you can clearly see that it will give automatically indentation, right? So whatever you write inside this indentation, you will print inside the if condition. And similar to that, we have else. So you just write else, put a colon, and press enter. And whatever you want to write, I am inside else. Let's suppose we write this. I am inside else. And now if you execute, what will be the output? Since a is less than a, which is 8, which is less than 10, right? So it will execute the else part. So let's now do shift enter, and let's see. It is printing I am inside else and a is smaller than 10. So I hope the idea of else, if else is clear. Now if you want to do if elif, right, there is a thing called else if in other languages, right? So we can also do that. So if you write else if here, it will not make sense. It will not make sense because you are working inside else, inside if. What you have to do, you have to go one step backward, so one indentation level back, right? So just press one backspace, and now you can write elif. So elif is similar to else if in another language, right? And you can write if a is less than maybe 5, then I want to say a is less than 5, let's suppose. And then you have else similar to the word what we have done earlier, right? Right. So I hope if else is clear. How we do if else? I think this would be fine. You would not face any error or a very big issue in if else, right? Now let's check how we write a while loop. So let's create a small variable again. I is equal to 0, and let's write while loop. So you can also put parentheses if you want to. So while I is less than 10 colon, because you cannot put parentheses in Python. In Python, you just have to put a colon and no parentheses are required. You just print I, and let me just remove this thing. You just print I and I plus equal to 1. Now, if you execute this thing, it will print from 0 to 9. Everyone knows, right? And if you do equal to this thing, it will print 1 to 10, right? 0 to 10. But let's now just print 0 to 9. But what if I want to print all of these numbers in a single line? Right? So there is a parameter in the print function. So print is a function because it is calling this function. You can clearly see that there are parentheses. These parentheses, right? There are parentheses after the print function. So this is a function, and inside this function there is a parameter. There is a parameter called end. And if you put end equal to space and do shift enter, now you will print all the values from 0 to 9 in just one line, right? Similar to while loop, we have for loop as well. So for I in range, whatever the value you want to give, let's suppose 10. And now let's print I, and similar to that, end is equal to space. Let's do this thing, and it will print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So I hope this while loop and for loop is also clear. So this is not very different from other languages that you have already done. This is like this, the change is just syntax change, right? You just have to put colon for any block. So colon is basically for block, right? So this is what you have to remember in Python. Now for creating function, what you can do, you can write def, which is for define or definition. You can say function definition def. Just write a keyword def. Then whatever the function name you want to give, and no matter how you can give any parameters, right? A, B, C, D, or even if you do not give any parameters, it will be perfectly fine. But let's just give 2 parameters, and again you have to put a colon and then press enter, so that it will give 2 indentation. So again, this is, see, indentation is very important in Python. If you do not give indentation, you will get definitely an error, which is indentation error. Right. So let's just write print hello from function, or I am inside a function, and let's just return a into b, or maybe you can also return a plus b or whatever you want, right? So let's execute this, and you know how to call a function, right? You just write function name, parentheses, and the parameter you need to pass. Since it accepts 2 parameters, so obviously you need to pass 2 parameters, right? If you just pass 1 parameter, what it will say? Function name missing 1 required quotient argument, because it was expected to require it was expected to receive two parameters, right? So let's just give two parameters for now. This is basic function calling. Everyone know about this, right? Then how we take input in Python? We just use this function input and then parenthesis, and let's just do shift enter to execute it. So here it is waiting for the input, right? It is still running. So you can clearly see the circle is still running. Why? Because it is waiting for user to input some value. And now I can input some value, maybe like coding blocks. So if I do enter, this INP, this variable will get this value of coding block. So if you print INP, you can see coding blocks, right? So I hope the Python basics are clear. So there will be no issue in Python basics, right? And let's just quickly move to data structures in Python, and then we'll jump to the directly deeper. So data structure in Python. So there are different data structure. One is list, tuple, set, and dictionary. So these are popular data structures in Python. So I would say list is very important, and dictionary, list and dictionary, these two data structures are really important, right? So we'll just see only these two data structures, and then we'll end this Python. So list is similar to what you have studied array in C++, but there are difference between array and list. So we'll see what the difference is. But list can be created like this. So you write any variable li, just write li and put this square bracket and enter any values. Like you don't have to specify how many numbers you want to give. Just put number of values. Maybe you can want to give 89 as well. So now do shift enter. So the list has been created, right? Now there are different methods associated with list. If you ask what is the type of li, everyone know, like if it is integer, it would give integer. If the value of variable is string, it will give string. Now this li is a list. So what this type of li will give? List, right? So we know that this is a this data type is a list. Now if you want to execute, so if you want to get the first value inside this list, let's suppose you want to get that get this 5. How would you do? What would you write? Li of 0, right? So 0 gives you the fifth this value 5, which is the first value, right? Basically indexing. What you are doing is indexing. You must have done this in your C++ or Java. So basically you are indexing, right? And if you write li of 1, what will you get? This 8. Right? So indexing is start from 0 in Python. So we have indexing like this, correct? So if you execute this, what will you get? 5 and 8, right? But there is a very popular thing called negative indexing or backward indexing or reverse indexing in Python. What this reverse indexing basically means, you can access this 10th value by writing -1, and this 89 by writing -1, and this would be -3, -4, -5, -6, and -7. So either you go from left to right by writing 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on, or you can go from backwards, from right to left by writing -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and so on, right? So let me just show you one small thing. So if you write li of -2, what will you get? And if you write li of -1, what will you get according to this list? Can anyone tell? Li of -2 and li of -1. Okay, so right, li of -2 will give 89 and li of -1 will give 10. Why? Because -2 means second last element, -1 means the last element, right? So negative indexing is again very important, and you have to remember this negative indexing, right? Now, if you want to change this 0th value, this 5 value to maybe any other value, you can easily do it, right? How? Li of 0 equal to 500. If you assign a new value, it will change, right? So let me try this thing. Li of 0, let's suppose I assign a new value 500. So can I do this? Yes, obviously. So it ran successfully and did not give any error. right? So now if I ask what is li, so let's print now li. It will say 508 because zeroth index, which was zeroth value, which was actually before 5, now replaced with 500, right? So I hope this is clear. So how we can change the value, how we can get the index, how we can get first value, second value, or the last value. Now let's suppose if you want to get values from 8 till 89, right? So you want to get the whole sub array. So what you want to get is sub array, right? You do not want just get array of 0 or maybe li of 1 or li of -1. Not single. These will give you only single value. But if you want multiple value, which are continuous value, you cannot get like first this and this and that. Like you cannot get non-continuous. But if you want to get sub array, like continuous array inside this array or list, what you can use list slicing. Again, this is very important topic, list slicing, right? So list slicing basically says the syntax is you write li and you give start index from where you have to start the array, the sub array, and you put a colon and then end index plus 1. So end index plus 1, right? Now if I ask you, you have to get values from 500 to 4. What would you write? This is not correct. So just you have to write on your own. So just tell me, what would you write if you want to get from 500 to 4? So use this syntax and tell me what. So this is 0 index, this is 1 index, 2 index, 3 index, 4 index, 5 and 6. So list slicing is used for getting values or continuous values or multiple value. So if you just use li of 1, it will give one value, right? If you use li of -1, it will give one value. If I use li of 0, it will give one value. But if you use this type of structure, this is called list slicing, it will give multiple values. Now many of you are saying that li of 0 to 4. So start index is 0, right? But end index is 4, and you actually have to do +1 as well. If you do not do +1, let's suppose if you do not do +1, what will happen? So let's try 0 to 4. If you do not do +1, so you will not get this 4 value. So what you have to do? 0 to 5. So I hope list slicing is also clear. So this is not like very hard topic to learn about, and everyone learned about stack, right? What are stacks? So just simple stacking. If you do li dot append, what will happen? It will take the 999 value and it will add to the last part, right? As the last element. Let's print li, and you can clearly see it has appended at the last. So append function comes from you can say stack, or you must have heard about append function. What does this append function do? Now the difference between array in C++ and the list in Python is array in C++ or Java are basically homogeneous. They have homogeneous element. For example, if you create a list of integer, you can only store integer values, right? But in if you create list in Python, you can store integer. So you can clearly see these are integers, right? These are integers. This is a string. This is a boolean. This is a float, and this is another list inside the list. So why index plus 1? So because the last part, which is this is always exclusive. So you must seen this thing somewhere in mathematics. So this part is always inclusive. It always includes this part, the first part, and it is always exclude the second part, right? This is always exclusive. So this actually happened in Python as well. So the first is starting index is included, but the end index is excluded. So this happens. So if you just print li of 1, it will be executed because it is heterogeneous element, and still it will work fine. So now let's see about tuples. So tuple, basically you can create tuples with these curly brackets, these parentheses. So if you do this, if you use square bracket, it will become a list. If you use parenthesis, it will become a tuple. So there is no difference between, there is no very specific difference between list and tuple. It's just if you use parenthesis, it will become tuple, right? So let's execute this tup, and I have used this parenthesis and 3682 too. And if you ask type of tuple, it will be tuple, right? Tup, it will be tuple. And if you try to change the just the difference between tuple and list is tuple are immutable. Basically, you cannot change the value of tuple. If you try to change the value of tuple, it will say, let's see what it says. It will give you an error, and it is type error. Basically, tuple object does not support item assignment, right? So it says tuple object does not support item assignment, which clearly says that it is immutable, right? So tuples are immutable, and if you see somewhere that you're getting this parenthesis, if you print tuple tup, and if you see somewhere you are getting parenthesis and some values, it means it is a tuple, right? Tuples are immutable. List have square bracket and tuple have parenthesis. Can we do slicing in tuple? So let's try to do that. So I think if we take from 0 to 4, so let's try if it execute. Yes, it executes. So it means we can do slicing in tuple. It means we can do slicing in tuple, but you cannot change. I was trying to write one, but you cannot change value of tuple, right? So now let's move to the last data structure, which is called dictionary. So dictionary stores the data in key value format. Key value format, right? For example, let's suppose you have a table. Let's suppose you have a table, and here key, and here you want to store value. So let's suppose you are creating canteen menu. Let's suppose you are creating canteen menu, and as a key you are storing item. What are the items of canteen? And in price you are, and in value you are storing the price of the item, right? So let's suppose we have first item as samosa, which is for 10 rupees, and burger is for 20 rupees, and pizza is for, let's suppose, 50 rupees. Now if you have 1 million rows, 1 million rows, right? 1 million elements in dictionary, it is very easy to extract or get the data. So retrieval part is very easy. Retrieval, right? If you want to get the data or get the price or value of any of these key, it is very easy. As in easy as in time of, in means of time complexity. So time complexity will be order of 1. So it is very easy to extract. So if you just try to print, let me execute this thing. And if you see what is canteen menu, so you'll clearly see that this look like this. And if you ask what is the type of canteen menu, it will say it is a dictionary. And if you extract the price of burger, so this is how simple it is to extract the price of a burger. Or maybe if you want to take the pizza price, so this is how you can do it, right? So those who want this notebook, they can go to this link, cb.lk slash dl6 June slash code. So this is the link of the notebook you will get in the GitHub. So I'll put the link on the chat. So can we use double quotes instead of single quotes? Yes, we can do that. So that would not be very difficult to do. So we can do that. Yes. So I'm giving you just like 2 to 3 minutes. Just go through this notebook, and if you face any doubt or if you think that why this is happening, how this is happening, just let me know, and then we'll start with deep learning. So those who understand this notebook, it's completely fine. So like those who are complete beginner, and if you understand this notebook, that this much of Python, if you just know how to write if condition, if you know how to write for loop, if you know how to write basic variables, right? That would be completely fine, and you will be able to code some deep learning part. So we obviously we cannot go in very details of Python, but just overview of Python is completely fine. And if you understand this notebook, it's you are good to go. So yeah, let's dive in. Could you repeat tuple? So tuple is basically it's you can consider tuple as a list. So but the difference between tuple and list is tuple are immutable, and immutable basically comes immutable word comes from mutable, right? And opposite of mutable is immutable, and mutable basically comes from the root word is mutate. Mutate means to change its state. Like if any variable or any object can change its state, it basically means it is mutable. And if anything cannot change its state or variable or object or value, it is immutable. So if I try to change the value of the zeroth element of tuple, you can clearly see it says that you cannot do this. You cannot assign a new value, right? So I think this would be fine for tuple. So you can treat tuple as a read-only list. You can just read, right? So the link is cb.lk/dl 6 June code. So this is DL. We are not considering set right now because for our workshop it is not required. But obviously set is very important data structure in Python. Can we use append? No, you cannot use append function in tuple. Why? Because you are again changing the state of tuple. And if somehow you are trying to change the state of tuple, it will give you error. Can we add multiple values in one dictionary? Yes, we can do that. Let's suppose you want to give a list to value, right? So you can give a list. So instead of just giving a single number like price, you can give a list of price. Can we append list? Yes, we can append list. I think you're asking for dictionary, right? Can we give two different values for the same key? Basically, you can give as I told you, you can give in the format of list. Is there any other difference between list and tuple? Tuples are basically like 10 times faster than lists. So if your work only if you want to only retrieve the data, just go with tuples. I guess like most of you have seen this notebook, and we can now start with the deep learning part, right? Ankita Pawar, dictionary of A is equal to 3, A is equal to 4. No, that would not work fine. Okay, so I guess we can now start with deep learning. So we do not require a lot of Python knowledge for deep learning, and we will see like how easily we will be able to do deep learning. So the idea of deep learning came from mimicking human brain. So mimic basically means human brain. Mimic basically means to copy something, right? To copy something. Now, what is human brain? So this is again a research topic. What human brain is and how human brain works. So human beings are treated as the most intelligent creature on this planet, right? Why most intelligent creatures? Because human beings have that brain capacity and it can learn very easily. So learn very easily. I do not mean that it can learn history, lambe answer and geography's answer, but instead it can take right decision at the right moment. So learning at that perspective is very important, right? For surviving, learning is very important. So human can learn from their mistakes and from the past experiences. So similar to that, human brain is most intelligent thing in the whole planet, and scientists found that like very a long time back, and they wanted to create something called artificial human brain. Artificial human brain. Now, why they wanted to do this? this is maybe because of a lot of reasons, because they wanted to create something like very intelligent machine, right? So what they wanted to create is computer that is very intelligent or as efficient as human, right? So they can work as human beings and human beings, and they can take decision as humans. Now the idea of human brain, how this human brain works. The human brain has something called neurons. In your 10th class biology, you must have heard about this neuron, what this neuron is. So neuron is generally look like this. I cannot draw exact neuron, but just giving you a small picture of this neuron. So this is how a neuron look like, and this neuron has, these are called dendrites. So these spikes, these are called dendrites. So these are called dendrites. This is called the nucleus or the neuron cell. You can say body. This is called nucleus, right? And this long tail is called axon, and this is axon tail. Now, why I'm telling all these things? So this is how a single neuron look like in our human brain, and in human brain we have 1 billion neurons. 1 billion neuron. Now, why these neurons are useful? Why I'm talking about these biology neurons, right? So these neurons help in transmitting the energy or electric signal. So you know that we as a human beings, we pass the electric signal to one another neurons, and they become something called neural network. So if one neuron is connected with another neuron, and this neuron is also connected with another neuron, so all these neurons are connected with each other and they form neural network, right? So this is how neural network is formed. So once they are connected with each other, it will become neural network. And what is deep learning? Deep learning is basically the study of this neural network. So deep learning is basically the study of neural network only. So those who do not know what is deep learning now, I guess you understand that deep learning is the study of neural network, right? And then stand for neural network. I will write it in the short format, right? So study of neural network. Now we have something called biological neural network in our human brain that is like automatically created by humans. But the scientists wanted to create artificial neural network. So this is artificial neural network, which is similar to biological neural network. Now we will see what is the purpose of artificial neural network and how it is related with deep learning. So the idea is deep learning basically means artificial neural network or working with neural network. And we will try to create one neural network in our code, and we'll see how it actually works, right? So I think this is fine. And what is ANN? ANN basically means artificial neural network. Artificial neural network. Neural network, you know that neural network basically means when neurons are connected with each other, and when neurons are connected with each other and they pass their energy or electric signal to each neuron or each different neuron. So it becomes neural network, and once it is created on computer artificially by humans, right? On computer format, it becomes artificial neural network. Okay, so now let's see how neural network actually looks like in a computer. So when we talk about artificial neural network, how it is actually looks like inside a computer. So before neural network inside a computer, let's just talk about computer neurons, how we depict or how we represent a single neuron inside a computer. So let's suppose this circle is a neuron, right? Let's suppose this circle is a neuron. This is a single neuron, one neuron. Now you can input multiple things to this neuron. Let's suppose I'm assuming that we are input first feature or first value, second value, and third value. Now this neuron will do something. I'll talk about what this neuron does. And basically there are two parts. First part is this, second part is this. So it does something in two parts, and it will give output, right? So let me try to input some values. For example, first feature. So this is first feature. This feature corresponds to the size of a house. Size of a house. The second feature corresponds to number of bedrooms in a house. Right? And the third feature basically means age of a house. How old this house is. Now, depending on these three features, what I have to do is I have to predict. This is predict what would be the price of the house. So what this system is called? This system is called house price prediction, right? This system is called house price prediction. Now, one single unit or one single neuron can help me to predict the house price, but it will not be very, very powerful. Once it is connected with multiple neurons, so once it is connected, once it forms a neural network, it will be very powerful, right? Single neuron is not very powerful. It cannot do much, right? It is just a single ant. Once the ant become a colony, like it becomes a huge ant colony, they are very, very powerful. So similar, it happens with the neural network as well. I'll talk about hidden layers, right? Just wait for some time. Now, these the lines you can clearly see. These are called weights. Weights, right? Let's suppose this is weight 1, this is weight 2, this is weight 3. Now, what happens inside the first part? It is actually multiplying weights and input like this: W1 into X1 plus W2 into X2 plus W3 into X3. And if you have more feature or more input values, what you will do? Dot 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 Wn into Xn, right? I think this is perfectly fine. There will be no issue understanding this thing. So these are weights, these are inputs. Input, you just give any input. Let's suppose size is 1500 square feet, number of bedroom is 2, and age is, it is 60-year-old. This house is 60-year-old. Now, what this weights are, we'll talk about this weight. So the whole idea of deep learning is to learn this weight, these weights, right? These weights are really, really important. Weights are really, really important. Weights are very important. Weights are very important thing in neural network. Right? But let's now suppose these are some random numbers. Let's just suppose these are random number, maybe 1, 5, 6, 7, 0.1, or minus subtraction, any number, right? So in the first part of the neuron, what actually happens? You just multiply each weight with their corresponding input, right? X1 multiplied by W1, X2 multiplied by W2, X3 multiplied by, and so on, right? And it will become, let's suppose, A. In the second part, what you will do? You will add a activation function. Activation function, right? Activation function of A, and it will become prediction by hat. So each neuron follows two steps. First is multiplying weight with corresponding input. Second is whatever the result you get from this, it is called activation. It is called activation, and you pass this activation to a activation function. Now, what is this activation function means? Activation function can be any function, any non-linear function. I would say any non-linear function. Now, why do we use non-linear functions? So there are different choices of non-linear function. I just give you some very popular non-linear function. This is not a vector. It's totally fine. This is a hat sign, right? Hat, as in let's suppose this is a hat. So basically means this is y predicted. Let's just suppose this. Let's just suppose it's totally fine if you do not put this hat sign over it. It's totally fine. So there are some popular nonlinear function. For example, ReLU. I'll talk about it. What is ReLU? I'll talk about it. What is sigmoid? I'll talk what is softmax. ReLU is one of the very, very popular nonlinear function. If you do not understand what is activation function, no worries at all. Just put ReLU function and it will work perfectly fine. There is something also called as tanh. So you can also use tanh or sigmoid or softmax. I'll talk about what is nonlinear when we use nonlinear function. So basically, nonlinear function means you have to increase the nonlinearity of your data. Right? What actually what actually means increasing the nonlinearity of data? So these days, when working with images, when working with audios like speeches, when working with videos, or CT scan or X-rays. These are highly non-linear things, right? You cannot say that this is like, if these are circles and these are crosses, if you have to separate between circle and crosses, what you would do? You will just put a straight line and it is easily separable, right? This is linearly separable because this straight line is a linear. But these days, like when working with images, or like as I've just said, images, speech, or X-ray, CT scan, these are highly non-linear data. So when the data is when the data is non-linear, when the data is non-linear, what you have to do is you have to increase the complexity or increase the non-linear function, increase the non-linearity in your model. So how you can increase the non-linearity? You can use ReLU function, sigmoid function, or tanh function, these type of a function in the second part of this percept or this neuron, right? So you have to do this. I think the idea is fine. Why we use nonlinear function? Because these days the data are highly nonlinear, and nonlinear data basically means you have to increase the complexity of your model. Now this is just a single neuron. This is not very powerful. Let's talk about neural network, the whole neural network. Let's talk about whole neural network, right? And okay, let's suppose this is x1, this is x2, this is x3, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So each circle is a neuron, right? Each circle is a neuron. So this neuron will go to will go input in this, okay, and also input to this neuron. This neuron will also go input to this, input to this, input to this, okay. Also, this neuron will go input to this. This neuron will go input to this neuron, and this neuron will be break into two parts. The first part is multiplying weights with their corresponding inputs and calculating activation function. So every time you can use ReLU function, every time. So almost every time you can use ReLU function. And similarly to this, it will compute multiplication of the its weight with the inputs and activation function similar to this, right? And it will give some output, right? So this output will go to this neuron, also this neuron. This output, this neuron will give some output, activation output, or you can say anything. It will go to this neuron and this neuron. This will also give some output. This will go to this and this. Again, it will do same thing. First part, second part, and it will go to this part, right? It will go. It will do same thing, right? And it will give prediction. This is called prediction, and it becomes a neural network. Now, this neural network has several parts. The first layer is called input layer. This layer is called input layer because here you have input data. You can clearly see, right? You have input data. So x1 is input, x2 is input, x3 is input, right? This neuron is called output layer, right? This layer is called output layer. Why? Because this gives output. By the way, ReLU stands for rectified linear unit. I'm not going to very mathematics of how ReLU works. If we have time, we'll discuss how ReLU works, but not right now. This is called output layer, and all these things are called, both the layers are called hidden layer. Why hidden layer? Because these layers are hidden from user. I'll talk about what ReLU is, what ReLU exactly is, if we have time. So not necessary, you don't have to understand ReLU right now. Just understand some basics of deep learning. So this is input layer, this is output layer, and these are hidden layer. Let's suppose you have 10 hidden layers. If you have 10 hidden layers, it will become deep neural network. So DNN basically means deep neural network. If you have like huge hidden layers, if you have a lot of hidden layers, I'll show you one example of deep neural network. So this is how a deep neural network look like. Right. So you can clearly see this is the input layer, right? Input layer. This is the output layer. Right now they are using 4 neurons in the output layer, and we'll talk about it, why they are using 4 neurons and why I have used just one layer, one neurons, and when we have to use multi neurons in the output layer. So this is input layer, this is output layer, and these are hidden layers. So this is hidden layer is located between input and output layer. That's correct. How many hidden layers possible between input to output layer? This is not any specific numbers. So some research groups have also created hidden layer of 200 layers, right? So it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine if you just create three hidden layer neural network, or 5 or 10 or 15, 20. That's perfectly fine. We generally do not go beyond 10, 20. It will become very, very deep neural network. So generally we do not go into that part. Right? So I think you know by now what is neural network, how a deep neural network, how does a deep neural network works, or look like, right? So the example that we are going to do, or the project, it is called image classification. So it is called image classification, right? And the data that we are going to use is called MNIST dataset. So this is called MNIST dataset, and we have images of handwritten handwritten digits. Handwritten, what is handwritten digits? For example, I have this image, and on this image I have written like this 7. Now you have to tell which number is this, like which number is written over the image. So this is what we are going to do, how you determine the number of layer and number of neurons in each layer. So I'll talk about it after, like at the end of the session, how to determine these hyperparameter. This is called hyperparameter, and I'll definitely talk about this later, like at the end of the session, how to determine these hyperparameters, right? Now the task is, you have to classify, you have to identify which number is this. So it can be 0, it can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be 9, right? From 0 to 9. So how many possible outcomes? 10 possible outcomes. 10 possible outcomes, right? You cannot predict 11 because you do not have image of 11. You cannot predict that. You can just predict 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 till 9. So MNIST, I do not know. There's no full form of MNIST, but it's just the dataset name. MNIST is just the dataset name, where you have images of 28 of height and 28 of width. Right? The height is 28, the width is 28 of each image. So we have 60,000 images. 60,000 images. Each has 28 height and 28 width. So this is for training. I will train my deep neural network or neural network with 60,000 images. Each image is 28 height and 28 width, right? And when doing the test part, for the testing part, I will use 10,000 images. So this is a different data set. So this is training data set. This is testing data set, right? So let's just do the coding part first, right? And you will easily understand what I'm trying to talk about. So just let me go to this again notebook. And I'll just say, let's just write ANN, or maybe you can write deep learning workshop, or anything you want to give the name, right? You can give any name to this. Uh, so we'll be using different libraries, right? So one popular library is called TensorFlow. You must have heard about TensorFlow. So TensorFlow is quite difficult to learn, or to write code in TensorFlow. Like in just, you cannot learn TensorFlow in just one day or 2 hours. Rather, what we'll do, we will use Keras. So Keras is a high-level API. So you must have seen, if you are in web development, you must have then CSS and then Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is very easy, right, as compared to CSS. So similar to that, we have Keras, that is the high-level API of TensorFlow. Are we saying that they are continuous numbers? So no, they are not the continuous number. They are just the number between 0 to 9. So if you just take 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you cannot predict 5.6. This is not a continuous value, right? You cannot predict 5.6. You have to predict any of these numbers. And I will say this is a classification. You have to do classification, right? Classification basically means finding which class. So 0 to 9 is, oh, it should be 9 as well. So 0 to 9 is basically 10 class classification, I would say 10 class classification. So that's why I'm not predicting a real number. TensorFlow is based on Keras. Keras is based on TensorFlow. TensorFlow is the main crux, or you can say the the low level library or the package, and Keras is based on TensorFlow, right? So let's import Keras. So let's write some code, right? So Keras is a library that is built on the top of TensorFlow. So you just have to understand Keras. So Keras is a library that is built on the top of TensorFlow. Now to get this data, MNIST data digit classification, we already have this data in the Keras library. So I can write from Keras. So from keras.datasets, I will import MNIST. I will import MNIST, right? And let's just do shift enter and let's run. So Keras is a library. You just have to understand this. Keras is a simple library. Right? So we have imported this. Now this MNIST is a function that will give me the data, like 60,000 images and 10,000 images. 60,000 for the training purpose and 10,000 for testing purpose. Okay, that if that the image that I showed you through the Google search, it was four class classification, and like that was for different tasks, right? Obviously, that was not for just a single continuous prediction task. So let's call the MNIST. So if you write MNIST.load data, and if you put a question mark, and do shift enter, if you do shift enter, you will see what it does. It loads the MNIST data. First thing, it will tell it loads the MNIST data, and what it returns the tuple of NumPy array. So in this format, like xtrain, ytrain, xtest, and ytest. So I'll just copy this thing. So let me just copy this thing: xtrain, ytrain, and xtest, ytest, and I will paste it here. So equal to, right, and let me call this load data. Now you will see it is downloading the data from any source, and it has already downloaded that data. And if you have not downloaded this data, it will take around 1 minute to download this data. And it has given me two tuples. You can clearly see this is a tuple, right? This is one tuple. This is another tuple. This tuple corresponds to training tuple, and I would say this tuple corresponds to test tuple. Right? Now inside this training, we have xtrain, which is the input of training, and this is ytrain, which is the output of training data. In the test, similar, we have input of test data and output of test data. Right? So wherever I say x, it means input. Now xtrain is input for training, xtest is input for testing, right? Okay, so now let's move. If I say xtrain dot shape, what is the shape of xtrain? It says the shape it is just a parameter, or you can say property. So shape is a property that will tell what is the shape of this matrix. So let's suppose there is a matrix. There is a matrix like this, and let's suppose it has 5 rows and 3 columns. 5 rows and 3 columns. Let's just suppose. So its shape would be 5 cross 3. Now there is a matrix. There's a matrix which is 60,000, 28, 28. But how it give us the image data? So I'm just explaining that thing only, how it gives the image data. So xtrain dot shape is 60,000 comma 28 comma 28. So basically 60,000 means it has 60,000 images. I'm just saying it is 60,000 images. And 28 comma 28 is size of one image, right? It is the size of one image. So 28 comma 28 is the size of one image. If I multiply it with 60,000, what it will become? 60,000 comma 28 comma 28, right? 28 comma 28 basically means the pixels. So these are the pixels, not the bits. These are the pixels. Like if there is one, then there is any image of let's suppose this image is one image, there would be pixels of it, right? Let's suppose this is one pixel, this second pixel, third pixel, fourth pixel, 28 such pixels in one row, and we have 28 columns, something like this, 28 rows, something like this, right? So these are all pixels. So xtrain.shape is 67, 28, 28. And what would be the xtest shape? Can anyone guess? Xtest.shape. Right. So it would be 10,000 comma 28 comma 28. Why 10,000? Because we have 10,000 images in xtest, and 28 comma 28 basically means simple, right? Pixels should be 28 comma 28 comma 3, not 3. Why? Because these are colored images. These are these are black and white images, not the colored images. So if it would have the image would have the colored image, then the pixels would be 28 comma 28 comma 3. But right now it is just a black and white image. So black and white image does not have this channel. So just forget about it. Consider only 28 comma 20. Right. So most of you have guessed right, 10,000 comma 28 comma 28. Right. Now if I ask what is the shape of ytrain dot shape? Ytrain dot shape. So basically ytrain contains the label or the value of each image. So let's suppose we have 60,000 rows, 60,000 images, right? In xtrain. Now this image will correspond to some value. Let's suppose this image is 6 image, and this image is maybe, let's suppose, 2 images. This image will be of 0 image. This image will be, let's suppose, 5 image. Now what is the shape of this ytrain? How many numbers it will have? It will have 60,000 numbers, right? And if you want to give 1, so it will be 60,000 comma 1. Basically there is one column and 60,000 rows, right? It does not have 28 cross 28. Why? Because it is not image. Why is just the label? Why is just the output, right? 60,000 comma 28, it will not be 28, it will be just 60,000 comma 1, or just the 60,000 vector, a vector of 60,000 numbers. Why? Because it is just the number of number of the output images, right? Output of each image. Which image is this? And again, which image is this? What number written over this image? So we just have to put number, right? 6, 1, 6. So let me show the example. So it is 60,000 comma. So this is just a vector, and it is 60,000. If you ask what is the shape of y test, can anyone tell what is the shape of y test? I think it is correct, 10,000 comma, because there are 10,000 images, right? So right now I cannot see this image where, like, most of you are asking where the image is. We can't see this image. We can't see the image. So let me just import one library. So let me import a library called matplotlib. So matplotlib is basically come from mat, basically means matrix. Plot basically means the plotting or depicting or visualizing thing, and lib is basically library. So I will say import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. So this is a library, matplotlib.pyplot, and I'm importing as a plt. So this library will help us to visualize any image, right? So let me just create a function, plot image. Let me just define a function, plot image, and it will accept an image, right? It will first reshape this image to 28 comma 28. I'm just reshaping it for the safety, right? If the image is, let's suppose, if the image comes in the format of 784, 784, let's suppose, I will reshape into 28 comma 28, 28 comma 28, right? If I get, if I, like let's just suppose we got we got image in 784 dimension. I have to convert it into first 28 comma 28. If it is 28 comma 28 already, then again we will just get 28 comma 28 only. I'm just commenting out. I'm reshaping image into 28 comma 28, and just I will say plt.im show image and cmap is equal to gray. Cmap basically means what is the color scheme. Since it is a color, since it is a grayscale image, right? Since it is a grayscale image, I will just write cmap is equal to gray, right? So, so this is the function, right? Now, if you see x train of any number, let's suppose zeroth. What is the zeroth number or zeroth image? So this is the zeroth image. Obviously, you cannot visualize this image, or you cannot see what number is written. CMAP is basically color map or color scheme. Which color scheme we should give, right? So obviously you cannot tell which image is this by just looking at the number. But if you pass x train of zero to plot image, let's just give me this number to plot image, and now you will be able to see this image belongs to 5, right? If you change your number, let's suppose, let me just change your number, and I'll give 90. Now you'll see 90 is basically the sixth number. So by looking at this number, you can say this is 6. But what exactly? Y train of 90 says? Let me see what exactly Y train of 90 says. So Y train of 90 says uh, it is 4. I guess there is some. Okay, I've written 60. Right? So the image is also 6, and y train of 90 is also saying it is a 6. So let me try for just one more image. Maybe I take random number 456, and let's check what y train of 456 says. So both are 8, right? What is image dot reshape? So image dot reshape basically means if I get this image, if it is 28 cross 28, I will say into 28 comma 28 comma 28. That is perfectly fine. It will not hamper anything, right? But let's suppose I get somewhere, I get 784 comma, I get this image. Obviously you cannot, you will say this is not an image, but I can convert this matrix to this matrix very easily. I can reshape this matrix 28 comma 28 matrix to 784. If I if I get this matrix 784, I need to convert into 28 comma 28 first. First I need to convert 28 comma 28, then only I will plot it. Because you cannot plot 784 dimension, but you can plot a matrix of 28 comma 28, or maybe 5 comma 5, or like 100 comma 100. But you cannot plot this dimension, right? This is not applicable for this matplotlib. So I'm just reshaping it for confirmation, for a safety purpose. If you get 28 comma 28, that would be fine. But any by chance if you get 784, need to convert 28 comma 28 and then plot. Yes. That Deepak, I have just said that why I'm just used for the I'm converting it for a safety purpose. So it's okay if you do not convert it, if you do not reshape it. We'll just see, right? So I think this is fine, right? I think this is fine. You got the insights of data, how this data is looking like, how this data is look like. Matrix which can be symmetric. So no, it is not necessary to be symmetric. if you want to plot any non-symmetric matrix like a rectangular image, something like this, this is 300 and this is 800, you can also plot this. It not necessarily to be symmetric only or square matrix. So you got the insights of data, right? How this data is looking like. Let's now create neural network. So let's create neural network or artificial neural network. Let's create artificial neural network, right? So artificial, for creating artificial, CMap is basically the color map. If you do not give CMap, you will get a different color. You want to see? If you do not give CMap, it will randomly give any color, any random color. See, the black is purple and the white one become the yellow or that shade, right? But since it is a black and white image, that's why I'm providing CMap as gray. I think a gray is fine, what this gray is doing right now. I'm show function is just for plotting image, right? So let's now create artificial neural network. So let me just import from keras.models. I'm import sequential model. I will import sequential model, and from keras.layers, I will import dense layer. With the feature of image. Obviously, if you reshape the image, the features of image will be altered, but we'll see it later how to deal with it. Do 456 correspond to 8? Yes, 456 corresponds to 8. Yes. So let's create our neural network structure. So this type of neural network, where you input data from one end, where you input your data from the one end. Let's suppose this is neural network. These are neurons, where you input your data from the one end and get the output in the other end. Let's suppose I'm just creating these weights. Right? Let's suppose this is input layer, this is output layer. You input the data from here and you get the output from here, right? So this is the input, this is the input, and this is the output. Let's just suppose this. Let's just suppose. So this type of model is called sequential model. This type of a model is called sequential. Why sequential? Because you are doing a sequential work. You are giving out input, you are getting output in the first layer. You're giving this output, this neuron's output to another layer input, and you're getting another output, right? Another input, another output, and then the final output. You're doing the sequential work. That's why I have created a sequential model. So I will say model is equal to, if the model is equal to sequential, something like this, right? I will say model is equal to sequential. When I do model is equal to sequential, it will create an empty architecture. So it will create an empty architecture. Now I can add dense layer. Now what are dense layer? You can see these layers. These layers are called dense layer. Why they are called dense layer? So are there different type of layer? Yes, there are different type of layer as well. So one is called convolutional layer, one is called padding layer, one is called pooling layer, one is called dropout layer. So we have dense layer. What this dense layer basically means? Dense layer basically means you will get input, and this input it will do some processing. It will do some processing, right? And it will throw its output to all the neurons. So dense layer basically means connected to all the neurons. Can you please explain why to split X train and Y train? So basically, you want to say X train and Y test. So basically, why we split data? That because we train our data on the half part or maybe 80% of our data, and then we test our accuracy. What is the how many times it is giving the correct answer, right, on the test data. And X train Y train basically means X train is the input data, Y train is the output data, correspond to the training part. Similarly, X test is the input for test data, Y test is the test for the output data for the test part, right? So we are creating a dense layer, right? The dense layer. I'm just showing the previous program only. So I'm creating a dense layer. How many dense layer? One layer, two layer, three layer, four layer. There you can create how many like number of layer you want. So let me create a dense layer and I will say model.add. Why? Because I want to add first hidden layer. I want to add the first hidden layer. That's why I will say model.add and then add a dense layer. I will add a dense layer, right? Okay. So now I need to pass some parameter inside this layer. So the first parameter is called units. Unit is, let's suppose, 32. So unit basically means how many neurons are there. So how many neurons are there? Let's suppose right now we cannot print digit without matplotlib. No, you cannot print a digit without matplotlib. Let's just suppose I am creating 32 neurons and activation functions. Let's just suppose activation function is relu, and for the first layer I need to pass input shape, which is 784. Like you have done. No, we cannot. So Ytrain was just a single number, right? Ytrain was a one scalar unit, like an integer. But we have printed the xtrain of any number, but it was just a huge matrix of 28 cross 28. You have already seen, right? The huge matrix. We cannot do anything of that matrix. So before this, what we need to do is right now our byte xtrain. So if we talk about right now xtrain, so xtrain right now is in the shape of 60,000, 28, 28. But our neural network does not support this matrix. What we have to do is we have to convert this into the format of 60,000, 784. Why 28, 28 should be just one, which is 784. So we have to convert this into this format. Similar to that, we have x test, which is 10,000, 28, 28, and we have to convert this into 10,000, 784. Where does this 784 come from? 20. If you multiply 28, 28, you will get 784, right? So, so how x train is equal to 60,000, 28, 28? We have already seen that x train is 60,000, 28, 28. So, but the important thing is we need to convert into this format. Why we need to convert into this format? Because ANN, or we can say artificial neural network, they just accept these neurons. They do not accept a whole matrix. They just accept into a vector format, right? I hope you understand what is vector. Let's suppose this is a matrix, and if I flat this matrix to this format, it will become a matrix. It will become a vector, right? And let's suppose this is 28, 28, and flatting this 28, 28 matrix, it will become 784 vector. So now we need to obviously we need to flat this x train into 60,000, 784, and we need to flatten this x test into 10,000, 784. Is it a part of machine learning? Yes, it's a part of machine learning. So for flattening, which operation can we use, or which function we can use? Can anyone tell? For flattening this matrix or x train and y train, which function can we use? Can anyone tell? Right, reshape function, right? We have already seen here when we are doing the map the plot image, we were saying if we get 784, we have to convert into 28, 28, right? That's why I just said that we will get 784 vector, and I need to reshape into 28, 28. So now it is just because of this thing. It is just because of this thing I need to convert into 784, right? So it would be 60,000, 784, right? And let's just receive into x train only. Similar to that, we have x test, which is equal to x test of reshape 10,000, 784. I hope the idea is clear. We need to reshape it. Why we need to reshape? because artificial neural network can only accept a vector as a whole. You cannot give matrix as an input, right? So that's why we need to reshape it. And if you now check what is extrain.shape, you now check what is extrain.shape, you will see 60,000, 784, and expressed.shape, express.shape, it would be 10,000, 784. I hope this is fine, right? And why do we did this reshaping? I think that is also fine. That is also you got the point, right? Because ANN cannot take the matrix as an input. It just need to flat the whole matrix into one, maybe vector, which is called vector, and that thing is called that will be input to the neural network. Model dot. So you just have to create model is equal to sequential first, and then I have not executed this line. I will execute this line, and I will say that input shape is, what is the input shape for the first layer? Input shape would be 784. So we were at this point, right? We need to create one layer which is called dense layer. It has 32 units of activate. It has 32 units of neurons. Activation is the ReLU, right? Input shape is 784, comma. I hope this is fine. Let's add another layer, which is another dense layer, and this dense layer also has units of, let's suppose, 64 neurons, and the activation is again red. But right now we don't have to give any input shape. No need to give input shape. Why? Because this is the second layer. No need to give input shape. We need to give input shape only to the first layer. Right? What is ReLU? I'll discuss about ReLU. So ReLU, okay, so the maths formula for ReLU is max of 0 and Z. For example, Z. This function look like this. So if your value is less than 0, if it is less than 0, what it will give? It will give 0. But if it is greater than 0, it will give the Z value only. Right? So the Z value is equal to max of 0 and comma Z. So if it is negative, if Z is negative, Z is less than 0, it will give 0. If Z is greater than 0, it will give the value of Z. So this is the non-linear function. You can see this, the function is non-differentiable at this point, and this is called non-linear. Why this is non-linear? I hope the idea is clear. This is non-linear, right? How does a linear function look like? Linear function look like this. Straight line, right? Straight line. This is a non-linear function. So let's not go into very detail of ReLU right now. You just understand what is ReLU and just put the ReLU as activation function. How can we give 32 and 64 units? It's just my idea, my intuition that given 32 and 64 would be fine. You can just, it is a good practice to keep, why do we give 64? Even if you want to give different value, you can give value as 128. Maybe like we keep the value in a power of 2. Power of 2. Like if you want to give 2 value, so you can give 4 units. If you want to give 3, you can give 8 units. If you want to give 4, you can give 16 units. Generally this happens, right? Even if you give 10 units, that would perfectly work fine. If you give 20 units, it still would work fine. So I would say try to change this number. I'm trying with 32 and 64. You try with giving, let's suppose 20 value or 40 value or maybe 23, very odd number, right? Very, very different number. But generally we keep, generally we keep this number in a power of 2. What does this units represent? These units represent the number of neurons in a single layer. Right now in this layer, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 units. In this layer, we have 5 units. But I'm saying I will keep 32 units. I will keep 32 units. Right? Then let's again add one more layer. Let's just add one more layer. Let's just add one more layer, and I will give 128 neuron to this. I will give 128 neurons, and let's add one more layer, and it will be 32. And let's add last layer, which is 10, and the activation is softmax. Okay, so this is our model. Now, I guess the starting four units, four layers are very clear. These starting four layers are very clear. You might get confused with the last layer. What is this last layer, right? This is the last layer. I would say this is the output layer. This is the output layer, and the first layer is, this is the input layer. Now this is the input layer, right? So I'll clearly explain what is happening inside this. So what we are trying to do right now is, okay. So let's just understand again. We have created a sequential model, right? Sequential model is basic architecture. I have just said dummy architecture, which is just empty. Right now it is nothing. It is just empty. I'm saying I'm creating an architecture. Now I'm adding the first layer, which is a layer, and I'm saying the unit will be 32 units. Activation is ReLU, and since it is the first layer, so just listen carefully. Since it is the first layer, I need to pass this parameter called input shape. Why I need to pass this input shape? This because this is the first layer. If it not being the first layer, we don't have to provide this parameter, right? After the first layer, let's add one more layer. Dense layer same, units is 64, activation is ReLU. You can change these numbers. If you want to change these numbers, you can change this number. It's totally your choice. I just come to softmax. ReLU I have already explained. This is the graph of ReLU. I'm not explaining it again. And why this maths work, I'm not explaining it right now why this actually works. But this is the popular activation function that we generally use these days, right? This is the popular non-linear activation function, you can say. Non-linear activation function, right? So I have added the second layer, I have added the third layer, I have added the fourth layer. So I hope this is fine. These three layers are called hidden layers. These three layers are called hidden layer. The first layer is called input layer, the last layer is called output layer. Now, why I have given 10 here? Why the number of units are 10? Can anyone tell why the number of units are 10? Just relate it with our data set. What is the 10 in our data set? Can anyone tell? And guys, don't worry about the certificate. If you wait till 10:5 or 10:10, you will get the certificate. 10 columns, no. 10 columns maybe, no, this is not the right answer. Digits, Deepak Gupta has given the right answer because we have to predict numbers from 0 to 9. And if you have to predict numbers between 0 to 9, it basically means you have to predict 10 numbers, right? So the numbers can be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So either of these 10 numbers, we have to predict one number. So what we have to predict, we have to, so I am giving 10 neurons in the final layer. So basically in the final layer, I am giving 10 neurons. I will say each neuron will correspond to one number. Let's suppose this neurons only predict 0. This neuron only predict 1. This neuron only predict 2. This neuron only predict 9. And we have 10 neurons in the final layer. By softmax, I'll come to the softmax part also. Right? So I hope the idea is clear. If you are doing classification basically means if you have to classify your item into different classes, then you have to add how many number of units in the final layer. How many number of unit? So final, I will say final layer neurons is equal to number of unique classes, or you can say number of unique output in your data. Idea clear है? Final layer, how many number of neurons we have to add in the final layer? जितने number of unique output would be there in your data set. Now अब हमारे पास 0 to 9 थे, तो we could simply say that we have to give 10. I will talk about softmax, right? The purpose of softmax, I'll talk about just why we use softmax, right? So I guess 10 is perfectly fine. What this 10 number represent? Can't we use ReLU in the output function, output layer? So see, what actually happens is, I'll just I'll just tell you the idea how you choose these numbers, right? So you have input layer, you have output layer, you have these two layer, right? And you have to choose. Let's suppose you have to choose activation function. You have to choose activation function and number of neurons. Number of neurons. Now in each layer, you can use activation function as ReLU. It will not harm you, right? In all the layers, you can use ReLU activation function. It will not harm you. In fact, it is the best idea to use ReLU function in all the layer. But in the output layer, if you have 0 and 1 classes, only two classes, let's suppose cat and dog, two classes, for example, cat and dog, then you have to use sigmoid activation function. If you have multi-classes, like more than 3 classes, multiple classes, then you have to use multiple classes के लिए what you have to use softmax. I will talk about the mathematical formula of softmax, but this is the rule of thumb that you have to follow. When you use softmax and sigmoid are only generally used in the output layer only. ReLU is used everywhere, like in the hidden layer, in the input layer, everywhere you use softmax. Oh, sorry, everywhere you use the ReLU function. But in the output layer, if you have to predict only two classes, one is cat, one is dog. Suppose person has cancer or not, person will survive the COVID or not. If these type of outputs are there, then you have to provide sigmoid as activation function. If you have multiple classes, then you have to provide softmax, right? So why I have provided softmax, why I have given I have written softmax here, because I want to predict multiple classes. Now, how it actually predicts the multiple classes? Let me give you the intuition about it. So before it, what you need to do is just go to at the top. Okay, so let's not go to the top. So at this point, let's just do from keras dot pre-processing. Okay, from keras dot utils import to categorical, and let's just do ytrain is equal to categorical ytrain. So why I'm doing this, I'll just quickly tell you. Test is equal to categorical. So I'll tell you. So I'm importing this function. So this is a function to categorical. I will import this function, right? So there is something called one hot encoding. So just understand this concept. There is something called one hot encoding. Guys, can you please stop bothering others about certificates? So just wait for around 30 more minutes, and you will get the test certificates. Guys, don't worry about that. So there's something called one hot encoding, or you can say two categorical. So both are the same things. So one hot encoding or two categorical works the same. So what is one hot encoding? Let's suppose you have values like this: 2, 1, and 3, 1, 2, 1. Right? Now, can you tell how many unique numbers are there? So unique numbers are there. 1 hai, 2 hai, 3 hai, right? So we have these unique numbers. Now the idea of one hot encodings are, if you have 2, you have to put the at the second column 1, and all other will be 0. If it is 1, you have to put 1 at the first column, and others will be 0. If it is 3, you have to put 1 at the third column, others will be 0. If it is again 1, put 1, all will be 0. If it is 2, put 1, all will be 0. If it is 1, put 1 here, all will be 0, right? So this is the idea of one hot encoding. Now what is the shape of this? It will be, I guess, 6, 1, something like this. And after doing one hot encoding, what it will become? 6, 3. Why this 3 came from? Where this 3 came from? Where this 3 came from? If any other value like 4, let's suppose if you have 4 value as well, if you have value of 4, then you have to create one more column. How many column you have to create? Column will be number of unique values. Number of unique values, right? That's why I've just assumed that there are only 3 different type of unique values. If you have 4 different unique values, how many columns you will create? 4. Now, where this 3 or 4 came from? Number of unique values, right? Number of unique values. In our data set, in our MNIST, how many different values are there? In the Y, if this is the Y train, how many different unique values are there? There are 10 different unique values are there, right? 10 different values are there, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 till 9. So let's suppose, right? So let's suppose there is a point which is 9. So what you will do, at the ninth column you will put 1, others will be 0, right? So this is this thing. If you have 2, what you will do, you will put 1 here, all will be 0, right? So what would be the shape of this? It would be 60,000 comma 10 if it is the Y tree. If it is Y tree, if it is Y test, what would be the shape of this? What would be the shape of this? It would be 10,000 comma 10, right? So this is called one hot encoding, or something, or sometimes called as two categorical. You are creating categories or creating different column for each type of value, right? So if the Y train is this shape, I'll just execute it. So I have executed this code. Now if I see what is the Y train dot shape, I will print Y train dot shape, also print Y test dot shape, Y test dot shape. If you print these two things, what you will see, 60,000 comma 10 and 10,000 comma 10, right? I hope the idea is clear. Now what these 10 columns represent? So these 10 columns represent why we are creating these categories. Okay, why we are creating these categories? Because the code is not visible properly. So I'll just zoom a bit, right? So why do we create these categories? It is because at the final layer, at the output layer, we have 10 neurons, and these 10 neurons give the probability for each neuron, each value. For example, these are 10 neurons in the final layer. These are 10 neurons in the final layer. Now this neuron will say it is 0. This neuron will say it is 1. The image is 1. This will say it is 2. It is 3. It is 4. This will say it is 9, and dot dot dot. Now out of these, all these 9 or 10 values, only one value will be picked up, right? These values will give the probabilities. These values will give the probabilities of being 0, of being 1, of being 2, of being 3, of being 9. And which value will you pick? The highest probability value, right? So out of all these values, you will pick the highest probability value, and you will see that what is the difference between train and test. I'll talk about train and test later, right? So it's just this thing that we have to do train by train dot shape as 60,000 comma 10 and by test dot shape as 10,000 comma 10, and now you can create your model. So the model is created. So the model has been created, right? So the model has been created. You can use this function model.summary, model.summary, and these are number of layers that you have written. And now it's time to predict, or okay, it's time. 60,000 means there are 60,000 rows and in the Y train matrix. Correct, correct. I am correct. Now it's trying to train our model. So this is a very interesting part. So train our model. I will say model.fit. The first parameter I will pass is x, which is x train, because I want to train on the x part. X is the input, right? X is the input, and I will train on x train. What is the y? I will pass y is the y train. Y is y train, right? Then the next parameter is number of epochs. Epochs basically means how many iteration it will take. How many iteration do you want to do? Let's just suppose I want to do 10 iteration, right? And let's say what is the validation data? What is the validation data? Validation data is X test, comma, Y test, right? So before this, we need to compile our model as well. So just write model.compile and let's pass optimizer as Adam. Let's pass loss as categorical cross entropy, and let's pass metrics. Let's pass metrics as accuracy. Enter, shift enter. Okay, iteration for what? Iteration for getting the perfect value, right? Or minimizing the loss function. Now, why do we need to compile this model? What is Adam? Adam is a type of a function, or you can say a code, a piece of code that optimize your function, optimize your loss function. So the whole idea of machine learning is, if this is the loss function, you have and you are at this point, you need to reach at this point, right? You need to reach at this point. You need to minimize this loss function. And for this, we are using Adam algorithm. Adam is a type of algorithm that will minimize the function, right? Let's suppose if you have x minus 5 whole square and you minimize this function, what would you do? You will directly differentiate this function with respect to x, right? You will get 2x minus 5 and you will put equal to 0 and you will get x is equal to 5, right? This is the minimization of this function. Similar to this, like this is one way of minimizing any function. There are different type of ways to minimize any function, and Adam is one way of minimizing the function. So therefore, we use Adam, which is very popular, and Adam is very popular, and these days Adam works perfectly fine, right? And why do we use loss as categorical cross entropy? So cross entropy is a different is a type of loss function that we use only for classification. Now classification can be like binary classification where you have to predict 1 and 0, like like person will have cancer or not, or the person will survive COVID or not, whether this image is a cat image or a dog image, right? These are binary classification. Whereas we can have multi-class classification, like given this image, tell whether this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which like the task we have. So the task which we have is a multi-class classification. And for multi-class classification, what we have to write in the loss function? Categorical cross entropy. If it would have been the binary classification, we would have written binary cross entropy. Binary cross entropy. Since is a multi-class classification, we will write categorical cross entropy, right? We'll write categorical cross entropy. And the metrics is accuracy because we want to measure the accuracy. So I hope that is fine. So is optimizer related to learning rate? Yes, is optimizer is related to learning rate, but there is more than just the learning rate. We have momentum as well. We have a decay rate. So we have different type of things as well. Just not the learning rate. Learning rate is one part of in the optimizer. There are different things as well. But yes, learning rate is related to optimizer only. So let's just execute it. And now we can do model.fit, right? Let's implement this. Let's execute it, right? So let's execute it, and you will see the model has started training. You can clearly see the model has started training. In the first epoch or the first iteration, you can see the accuracy is 80% and the validation accuracy is 90%, right? In the second epoch, in the second iteration, your training accuracy is 92% and the validation accuracy is 93%. Similar to that, in the ninth iteration, the accuracy is 96% and your validation accuracy is 95%, right? What happen if we don't use the optimizer and loss function? So no, if will we get the incorrect result, or we miss if we miss those? So if you do not write loss function and optimizer, you will not be able to train your model. Your model is trained only through your optimizer and loss function, right? Model is only trained through the optimizer and loss function. So So at the last iteration, you can clearly see at the 10th epoch, how much accuracy did we get? 96 on the training data. And on the validation data, how much accuracy did we get? 96%. So around, so let's suppose we have 100 images. Out of 100 images, I have predicted 90 images correct. So what accuracy I have? 0.9. Similar to that, out of 10,000 images, I have predicted 9,600 images correct. If you have missing values, then you have to do imputation. It will not work directly with the missing values. You have to do some imputation. So there are different technique of imputation. So there are different techniques of imputation that we are not talking about right now. But yes, you have to impute your data. So you will get 0.96 accuracy, right? So this is that accuracy. This is that accuracy, right? This is that accuracy. So I think the idea is clear. We got 96% accuracy on the unseen data, on the validation data, right? On the test data. So this is the test data. So let's just predict for one image. Let's just okay. I'm saying I'm giving you this image. This is my image. Now predict which number is this. Which number is this, right? Can we do this? So let's try to do. Let's try to do. I will say X test of pick an image 780. Let's pick this image. Let's pick this image and see which image is this. And let's see plot image करके जो हमने that the function that we have already created, plot image. I will pass X test of 780 and I will see which image is this. Okay, so it is saying अभी तो बोल रहा है कि this is 3 image, right? Now let's ask our model. Let's ask our model. Can you predict this image? Or what do you think about this image? Let's ask our model. So I will ask this model using this function called model.predict classes, right? You can see a function model.predict classes. I will ask model.predict classes and I will give X test of 780. I will give X test of 780. I'm saying that this is my input image. Take this image as an input and what do you think about this? What number do you think about this? Just see this image and tell me which number do you think about this. Okay, we got some error. Let me just see what is the error. If I check the shape of it, it is 784 only, and it has expected 784 but got array with 1 comma. So maybe if I do this. Okay, if I do it reshape, 784 comma by 780 is giving output as 3. 780 was just a random number. 780 was just a random number, and you will need a validation set through which you could judge your prediction, right? Right, correct. So we need a validation data set or test data set through which we can always check our prediction, like how much we are getting, like 70% is correct, or 90% is correct, or 100% is correct. If we increase the number of epochs, we will increase the training accuracy only. We will not increase the test accuracy. Let me just correct. Let me just see why this is happening. Right. So what number it has predicted? Can you tell? So the image actually was 3, and what our model has predicted? See, what model has predicted? It has predicted 3. Right. So what is the difference between training accuracy and test accuracy? So very good question. Let's suppose this is our model. This is our model. This training data we had. This is the training data, and we trained our model on the training data. Right. Now let's suppose in the near future, maybe in next 5 years, in the next 2 months or 5 months, you get an image which is just the one image, right? This is one image. Let's suppose this is one image. Now you do not have access to it. You have just you're deleted. You have learned everything from the training data. You learned everything from the training data, and based on this learning, you predict what image is this. If you predicted one, it means you are giving correct answer. Let's suppose I asked you 10,000 times. I asked you 10,000 times different images, and you have given me 9,006. Let's suppose 9,500 correct answers. What would be the accuracy? Your accuracy would be 95%. In this case, we actually do the same thing. We give you one image, while training, and ask you what image is this. You will say, oh, it is zero, because you have not learned at that time. At the training time, you are still learning, so you will make a lot of mistakes. But as soon as you increase the epochs, or if you do training for multiple times, what actually you improve the accuracy of training data, but testing data accuracy will be reduced. So if training accuracy is less than validation, then what should I do? So generally, this does not happen, that training accuracy is less than validation accuracy, but it is actually happening. Then you're good to go, right? The whole point is test set or validation set accuracy should be high. The validation set accuracy or test set accuracy, both are the same thing. Right now, both are the same thing. So that validation set accuracy should be high, right? So let's just predict, or let's just test for another image. Let's just test for maybe let's test for 9,000 image, right? So the 9,000 image is 7, right? You can clearly see it is 7. So let's ask our model, what do you think about this 9,000 image? I'm just changing the index. Here. I will give 9,000, and I will ask model.predict class, predict any one class, and oh, it says it is actually 7, right? So I think our model is why we are reshaping. This is like you have asked the question why we are reshaping, because I give this input, and it says it is complaining. It is not accepting this input. It is saying that I need input in this format. In this format, I need input in this format. Now, what is this? What is this format? It can be none, can be anything. It can be one image, it can be two image, it can be three image, it can be all 10,000 images. It can be all 10,000 images. But at least I need one image. So I need at least one into 784. Even if you want to give two, you can give. Three, you can give. 10,000, all images, you can give. But at least one. You cannot give 784 to me. You cannot directly give 784 to me. If you see what is the if you see summary, input shape, it just accept none comma 784. It accept this shape, right? That's why I need to convert into 1 comma 784. Otherwise, why would I have converted, right? If it worked perfectly fine with this part, why would I have converted? I need to reshape it into at least 1 comma 784. If you want to give two images, you can give two images or 10,000 images, right? So I think this is perfectly fine now. I think this is perfectly fine, right? How can we implement it on a photo containing many digits? That we cannot do. Obviously, that we cannot do, because our data set, our training data set had only one single image, and that's what we can do, right? If let's suppose our data set had multiple different type of images in single photo, and it could detect. Let's suppose we have one as well, two as well, and nine as well, and it could detect this is one, this is nine, this is two. Then we could do in our test set. But obviously, in our training data set, we have only one images, single images. So we cannot do it right now. How to extract text from an image? Can you provide me a source? Okay, just search for Tesseract. So Tesseract is, I guess, they have created by Google Tesseract library, and OCR is the algorithm that you need to implement. What is hyperparameter tuning? Okay, so what is hyperparameter tuning? Very good question, guys. Just stay for 5 more minutes. I will share the link with you, for the certificate, and we'll share the code as well, right? What is hyperparameter basically? Hyperparameter is how many units, number of units you want to keep in each layer, right? What is the activation function you want to keep in each layer? What is the activation function you want to keep in the final layer? How many layers you want to keep? How many epochs you want to keep, right? All these things are called hyperparameter. Now, hyperparameter tuning basically means if you use very good numbers, if you could use very good numbers here, if you use very good number here, if you use very good number of epochs, right, you will get good results. You will get better results in training, in testing accuracy. Now, how to tune these hyperparameter, how to get these perfect number of parameters. So this comes with the experience. If you work with different type of data sets, you will be able to understand what are epoch. Epoch basically means number of iteration, how you want, how many times you want to iterate these, how many times you want to feed this model that this is my one, 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 kind of this thing. Right? You are training that model with the same data that this is my one, learn it properly, that this is my one, this is how actually one look like, this is how actually nine look like, repeated multiple times, right? So hyperparameter tuning basically comes with experience. If you learn, if you try with different data set, and you will see, you will observe the pattern that with the simple data, you need to keep simple model. Basically, like 3-4 number of layer of architecture, 10 number of epochs. If you have very complex data, for example, CT scan or MRIs, like these are 3D images. These are 3D images, or even videos, right? Videos are very complex things, or even speeches. So you need to increase these number of layer first. You need to increase these neurons second. You need to increase number of epochs. So all these things you need to do, right? So hyperparameter tuning comes from experience. When you do a lot of data set, when you do a lot of deep learning, it will automatically start come. Okay. So I guess we will end the session. I guess I'll give you one homework, right? One homework that you need to do. Right now, all the test image that we are taking were already in the X test format, right? But let's do one thing. I'll go to online paint. Let me go to the online paint. Okay. Let's just go to the online paint, and let's just create a image from ourselves, right? Let's just create any image, any number from ourselves. Low. So I'll create it black, and so let's suppose this is 7, right? This is 7. Now, if I give this image as an input, can your model tell if it is 7 or maybe other number? So this would be your homework, right? So you have to just save this image and upload your photo here. So you can see, you can upload your photo here, and you have to write some code. That code you need to write, right? You need to write that code, and you need to predict if it is able to predict the correct 7 number for this given image or not. So I think the task is clear to you. If you do not get it, just let me know. I'll help you out with this. So with this, we will end our session. I will share the link for certificate. So for the certificate, you need to fill this form. So cb.lk. I'll pick the questions maybe like after this. So the session was, I guess, 6 June and certificate. So just let me try if this is working. So cb.lk. So just go to this link, cb.lk/6June/30. So I'll put this link in the chat box. So just go to this link, and by default you will not get this form, right? By default you will not get this form. So let me just try with incognito mode. So cb.lk/6June and 30. So if you're not okay, if you're not, let's suppose if you're not logging, you need to log in first, right? So after going to this link, cb.lk/6June/30, you need to log in first. Log in first. It will directly redirect to the login page. You need to log in first, and then you will get this Google form. And this Google form is only valid for 2 hours. So around 2:30, or sorry, 12:30. It will be valid till 12:30. So you need to fill this form till 12:30 only. Can you share the recording? I guess the link will be same. If you go, so the link will be same for the recording. So login first. So login first. Login is very important. If you do not log in into the coding block account from the Google or Facebook or GitHub, or if you have an account, you will not be able to see the Google form. Then submit the Google form. and submit the Google form, and you will get the certificate on your email maybe in the next 2 days. So in the next 2 days, you will get the certificate over your email. Right? Can you share the code? So the code link is cb.lk/dl 6 June. What was the link? cb.lk/dl 6 June /code. So this is the code link. I will push my this code. So the code that I have just written, ANN, I'll push this code to the GitHub, and then you will be able to. Yes, my name is Mohit Uniyal. So just go to this link for code. For code, just go to this link. For certificate, just go to this link. For certificate, just go to this link. And then you will be able to If you have any questions, you can ask me now. For the next 5 minutes, we'll pick some questions and then we'll wind up the session. How to upload image in Anaconda Navigator? So in Anaconda Navigator, like if you are working with Jupyter Notebook, just search for ls, or basically you need to work with directories. Like if you search for ls, you will see the current files and folder if you're in a folder, and then just pick using plt.imread or maybe keras.im load karke there is a function load image. There is a function load image. So my name is Mohit Uniyal. How to set online image to 728 or 784? You need to there's a function called load image. There's a function called load image or cv2.resize. So basically you need to resize your image into 28,28 or 784, right? You need to resize your image. So that is your task, right? You have to find this thing from the internet or maybe from somewhere. How to learn Keras and TensorFlow in detail. So you can go with the specialization of the Coursera. So the specialization is around is like TensorFlow specialization, and it has around 5 courses. So TensorFlow for that is the great course. Series on TensorFlow. We'll try to make a series on. Did we have more than hidden layer neuron? So yes, we can create more than three hidden layer deep neural network. So even if you want to create like 5 layer neural network or even 10 layer neural network, you can create that. But we only increase the complexity of neural network, or we increase only the hidden layer when our data set is complex. Right now, the image that we had, the images of MNIST, the images like these are very simple images. These are like most simple data set that you will ever see. If you increase the complexity of your data set, you need to you need to increase more layers. Difference between testing data and the validation data. Test. Okay. So right now, let's not differentiate between testing data and the validation data. So this saying that both are the same thing. I'm not going to cross validation right now. Let's just think testing data and validation data is the same thing, right? For right now, just for right now. So the course of today lecture is deep learning. Yes, obviously it is deep learning. Can you share the Google form link, please? So it is still written over here, cb.lk 6 June 30. Can you share what is the process of block diagram to artificial? Google link is there, right? So this is the Google link. This is the Google link. ReLU is basically activation function, non-linear activation function, I can say. So it basically increases the complexity of your model. So if your model is if your data is non-linear, for example, CT scan or MRIs or videos or speech, right? So these are non-linear data. So not to handle the non-linear data, you need to have non-linear model. You need to increase the complexity of model. That's why we use ReLU. Just let me see your question. Where is the question? How to train context-based data like question answer? Which neuron will be suitable? So for question answer, So you can search for visual dialogues. There is a project called Visual Dialogues. Okay, for question answer you can use auto encoders, right? So there is an architecture called encoder decoder, encoder decoder. So that type of neural network is used for question answering session, right? If you ask something and you will get reply in return, you have to use encoder decoder neural network architecture. This is quite complex right now, but if you know about encoder decoder, you will be able to get. Your name, my name is. I'll just write. My name is Mohit Uniyal. Mentor name. Okay. Accuracy changes at every run. How to fix? Maybe you need to do some pre-processing of your data. So if you know about like standardization or the normalization, hopefully it should increase, right? In the long term, it should increase. For example, हो सकता है कि in the next epoch it is decreasing maybe by 2%, but in the 10 epochs or 20 epochs in the longer run, the accuracy should improve. It should improve. This code is not available because I have not pushed this code. I'll push this code maybe after the session, and then you will be able to see the whole code. How to get started in this domain after completing Python, NumPy, Matplotlib, Panda? We cannot directly jump to the deep learning. I would say learn first linear regression, logistic regression, just some basics of machine learning, and then go to the deep learning. This is looking very easy, right? The deep learning that we have done in our today's session is looking very easy. But if you go to the maths behind deep learning, it is very complex. So you will see a lot of linear, there are a lot of differential calculus, all of these things, right? But right now, you didn't get any all of these things because you used the library called Keras and TensorFlow, and so it just saved you from all the mathematics that you have to write. So I would say if you are learning deep learning, then you need to learn all the mathematics behind the deep learning. When will this end? This is just the workshop is ended. If you want to leave, you can. I'm just answering few questions and then we'll leave. Relation between AI, machine learning, deep learning. AI is a very huge field. So let's suppose this is the AI, and inside AI we have a subset of AI which is called machine learning, and inside machine learning we have a deep learning which is still subset of machine learning. So I guess we can end the session now. How to log in? Log in with Google, or you can create a new account, or you can log in with Facebook. So there are multiple options. Na? You can clearly see how to integrate model in a website or apps. I can show you how to integrate model with apps. So just go to this link. Okay, just search for YouTube, and in YouTube just search for okay, just search for my name Mohit Uniyal coding blocks. What happened? Just search for Mohit Uniyal coding blocks, and you will get this playlist. So I have created this playlist where we have integrated machine learning model with Flask. So web development, right? So you can search for this series. Okay, can we use rule-based ML? So rule-based machine learning. It generally this doesn't work. But like we have neural networks, and neural network performs much better than rule-based machine learning. I guess we need to end this session now. So can we solve this problem using machine learning? Yes, we can solve this problem using machine learning as well. But deep learning is more powerful, right? So bye guys. If you want to see this session again, just save the link in the URL, and you'll be able to see it again. Just bookmark this URL, right? Just bookmark this URL, and you will be able to see this again. Bye, guys. I guess you like this session, and yeah, you will get the certificate in next 2 days if you have filled the form.
and hope you will be able to do that project or that small assignment that I've given or homework. If you are not able to do that, just let me know in uh, maybe in LinkedIn or just mail me. We'll try to help you. Right. So bye guys. We'll see you in some other workshop.